Hey everybody, welcome to Neil Talks. My name's Neil and it's time to talk more QI. And this week's viewer recommendation takes us to the end of Series G. It's an episode I know nothing about, as is almost always the case. I don't even know who any of the guest stars are this time, which is nice. Let's leave it all to surprise. But you guys haven't steered me wrong yet. If there's an episode you want to see, know that I do have a list. I'm working through it, but me hearing a recommendation a second time never hurts. So by all means, let me know in the comments if there's any episodes you think I should check out. Be sure to check out my back catalog of reactions because I have seen a bunch, and there's so many more still to come. This one's called Geometry. This is the Excel version of that episode, so if you are watching along on Patreon, make sure you've got that one queued up. I've included the link in the Patreon description for those of you who are supporters. I'm ready to jump right into it, so let's do that. Episode 16 from Series G.
Welcome to QI. Tonight, as Plato said, let no one untrained in geometry enter. We have the shapely Johnny Vegas.
Okay. Haven't seen Johnny in a while.
The curvaceous Rob Brydon.
Not anticipating a ton of...
hyperbolic David Mitchell.
Oh, I was about to say not a ton of intelligent geometric conversation.
Square peg in a round hole, Alan Davies.
But we got a David Mitchell, so you never know.
Johnny, you're looking very, very svelte, if I may say so. What's your secret?
Well, it's a tidy neck.
Tidy neck.
Yeah, a tidy neck, and the buttonhole just left casual enough.
Hey, anyone have any thoughts as to why he might be looking, or might not be looking svelte?
Is
The
it
horizontal
to do
stripes.
with the direction of his stripes?
It is.
It is. Look at the picture over there. It's accentuating my breasts.
But it's supposed to be that vertical stripes make you look slimmer, but they don't.
You're right.
That's the point.
Oh.
Almost everybody thinks that vertical stripes make people look slimmer. But it turns out, research from a man called Dr. Peter Thompson of York University has discovered that the large majority think the one in the vertical stripe is larger than...
It's a bit like when you're hot, the best way to cool down is not by drinking a cold drink. It's by going into an air-conditioned building.
Surely this shows, actually, that it makes no real difference at all. Because we're determining whether wearing vertical or horizontal stripes makes you look thinner.
Yeah.
And you can't tell by looking. You have to do research. Basically, people look as fat or thin as they are.
I beg to differ.
I have a friend who's quite short, and he likes to wear vertical stripes because they make him look taller.
It's not going to make him look taller than a taller man.
I've missed your angry logic, David, I have to say.
I think it just alternates, doesn't it? For ages you think, OK, vertical stripes make people look thinner. Then you say, oh, she's wearing vertical stripes, therefore she must be fatter than she looks. Therefore you start thinking, oh, she looks fatter because she's wearing vertical stripes. So suddenly horizontal stripes start making you look thinner because, oh, she must be thin, otherwise she'd never dare wear horizontal stripes. Then they go, oh, no, horizontal stripes make you look thinner. Oh, she must be fat, she's wearing horizontal stripes.
I miss David Mitchell so much. Oh.
David, you may well know this because you're a bright chap. Not the others aren't.
No, but...
Why do
I
columns...
feel terrible if I don't.
Yeah, why do you? Why do columns around the Parthenon look straight?
Because they are.
You see, I don't think
There
I know
are no
this.
right
I
angles
think
in the
I think
Parthenon,
I'm going
right?
to say something embarrassing.
Go on.
It gets wider, doesn't it? Because it's further away at the top. So in order
Well-
to stop it looking like it's tapering, they made it
This was
wider.
the theory for a long time. It's a thing called entasis. If a column is exactly straight, then from a distance it looks as if it bows inwards. The secret is to make it bow slightly outwards, so from a distance it looks elegant
columns,
and straight.
yeah.
But it turns out this isn't what they did after all. Alan's very first answer that he almost whispered, which is they look straight because they are straight.
That's not a question. That has taken me on a whole circle, a train of thought. I'm going, the reason they look straight is because they are. And you're going, this is why I struggled in school. How did it get there? And you're going, because it did.
It's sort of that. It's the cue.
It's not sort of that. It's very confusing.
Might have been.
Why does that look straight?
But
Because it is! Because at the start.
The same man, do you remember what his name was? Who discovered that hoops...
Peter Thompson.
Peter Thompson, very good. And he also discovered that the straight lines on the Parthenon are... But, Johnny, there he is, he's wearing a straight moustache. Hello, Peter Thompson.
Now, if you're really fat, it's not going to make a lot of difference because the effect's not that big. So
You may have roused the beast within Johnny.
Who was it that first saw some pillars that looked straight and thought, oh, that must be because they bulge?
There are other places where it does quite notably happen there, where from the right distance they look straight but are quite bad. Yeah. Are you good on Greek, Doric and other such columns?
I'm amazing, don't get me started.
Doric, Ionic,
Would you like to see some
Corinthian, right?
Greek columns and identify them for me?
And I've forgotten to memorise them.
Oh, any thoughts?
Ionic, Corinthian.
There's one thing that's really missing. Do you know the one thing that is so common that
The rest of the building.
well, they had so much, the Greeks, but they never had an arch, and because they didn't have an arch, they therefore didn't have a vault or a dome. So there's nothing round in Greek
No
architecture.
arches at all?
No.
For an extra point, Stephen,
Yes, go on.
what makes these different to Christopher Wren's columns at the Guildhall in Windsor?
Oh, the Wren's columns don't actually support
These
anything.
columns don't reach the ceiling.
Yeah, we just did that episode.
My point is, Stephen, if you let me get it out, is that these do touch the ceiling.
You're right,
Well, I
they do.
think surely even with Christopher Wren's building, some of the columns must touch it.
You're thinking of David Copperfield.
I've levitated
Great
the
architect.
first floor.
He did not invent the hover ceiling.
What about the two lions on the gatepost?
Do you have lines on your gate?
Jeff and Marge.
Jeff and Marge. That answer was quick enough for me to believe you do have them. Now look at these two shapes. They have names. Yeah,
Kapow.
one is the kiki and the other is the booba. Tell me which is which.
Boober's on the right, clearly.
I would say Kiki is the splodgy one,
Yeah.
and Boober is the spiky one.
Yeah.
Oh, would you? You'd say the other way around. And what would you say, Johnny?
I have no idea.
I hate to think.
I think I'm with David and Alan.
If you think Kiki's one on the left, put your hand up. Well, that's a huge majority.
Yeah.
A few of you going along with Rob.
Are you all Welsh? Very interesting.
There is no right or wrong answer.
Oh,
So, I don't know if it's the same in other languages, but in English, point sounds pointy, blob sounds blobby.
That's the point. And the point is that it's true in all languages.
okay.
And
Is it a
that's-
form of onomatopoeia, Stephen?
It kind of is a form of honour, as you rightly say, matter, as you pointed out, Piers. In Huambisa, which is a South American language, 98% of people who didn't speak Huambisa, when seeing the words chunchuikit and morts, thought that if one was a fish and one was a bird, that chunchuikit would be a bird and morts would be a fish.
Yeah, because Kinchuikit sounds like a bird call.
Within...
And yet, the Welsh word for carrot is moron.
Is it?
As if moron was going to be a word for a food, I say it would be for something, you know, like more like a mousse or a, you know, a pate.
Well, they're quite blunt, aren't they, carrots?
Yes, but
Moron is the Greek for blunt, which is why it means obtuse, a blunt-witted. Oxy is sharp, moron is blunt, hence oxymoron being a...
Oh,
there's nothing morony, is there?
Yes.
Unless you're being inappropriate with your carrot and going,
Whoa.
So what about onion rings?
It's not that every single word in every language is onomatopoeic. It's merely that an example like that
They
shows...
often are, though, aren't they?
They often are, yes.
Desk.
Yeah. And
Desk. Tin. 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 Boo.
This is how you teach a chimp to speak.
Well, then pay attention. Paper.
oh, nicely turned. Nicely turned.
well, yeah, all right. He sometimes is, but mostly...
Cross with me.
For example...
He's asked you some absolutely ludicrous things tonight. And you've sat there going, oh, with your northern charm.
No, maybe I think you can take it more and that John is a little more vulnerable. I don't know why I would think that because his big soft side eyes. You see? Yeah.
Johnny has the eyes of trust, you have the eyes of prostitution.
Whoa!
I don't know. I like the bright colours.
Yes, yes.
I like my eyes.
I feel like Johnny's on drugs this episode. Try and find the rails and get back on them.
To our
Mr.
books.
Fry.
So, can you tell me what the most successful textbook of all time is?
Geometry.
Oh, it's the
Logarithms.
It's
Not
yeah.
logarithms,
No,
no.
not logarithms. Is it logarithms?
No.
Principia
Logarithms
Geometria.
is a jolly good guess.
Some sort of ancient geometrical textbook
Yes.
written probably by a Greek.
Pythagoras?
Euclid.
Euclid's.
Euclid is the right
Euclid's
answer,
geometry.
David.
Okay.
Elements.
Elements, that's what it's called.
He essentially turned up and said, this is why all the buildings have been falling down.
Well, there's an element to that, because engineering obviously owed a huge amount to it. Something philosopher, I can't let you read it.
Yeah, I'm brilliant with Latin. I just
No,
can't
it's written in
read it.
English. The elements.
Oh, Johnny.
Elizabeth's court magician, John Dee, Queen Elizabeth I. Have you heard of John Dee?
Yep.
Yeah, he was a very extraordinary man who worked as a spy. Now, there are points here, if you can tell me the cipher he used as a spy. And a writer many, many, many years later who was extremely learned in the ways of the world, despite being thought of just as a thriller writer.
Ian
Spy,
Fleming.
yes. So
007.
007, exactly. It was John Dee's call
I
sign.
sense
Oh,
points.
You get points. In fact, you will have 7 points.
7 points.
Yeah.
John Dee was 007? That's kind of awesome.
And he was also one of the people responsible for bringing Euclid to the attention of the world. Quite interestingly, which is all we're after, it was a pop-up book, Euclid, when John Dee produced it.
The thing is, with pop-up books, when you read normal books, you end up, like, putting them in front of you and just kicking them from behind because you think they're lazy. If you open a book and every time you turn the page, it goes, oh. And what happened to the giant?
Oh. Now, what do you call a left-handed lemon?
A potato.
No, but you're thinking along the right lines.
What?
We're talking about molecules and their arrangement.
Oh, flavor chemicals.
Orange.
Is the right answer.
7 points.
There's an orange, 7 points. That's your number. Have a lemon. There you are.
I'm all right, Steve.
The arrangement of the aroma molecules is exactly the same, except a mirror image. Chirality, as it's called, is present in our nose molecules as well. So it hooks onto them, and we recognise them in the same way. Like glucose, only right-handed glucose can be metabolized by the body. And then all the left-handed ones are the diet ones, sucralose and that sort of thing.
You've got to go in and ask for right-handed fruit.
Do you know the proportion of right-handed people around the world, not just in, as opposed to left-handed?
9 out of 10.
Just about. It's a little less. They think it's between 70 and 90.
It'll be far less than the
That's a big
Walkums.
range.
With the what?
They should know better.
The Morecambs.
The Walkums.
What's a Walcombe?
The left-handed and the right-handed.
Walcombe.
Not when the war.
Oh, when the war comes, I'm sorry.
Lost in the accent.
Surely one day the right-handed
Yeah,
will rise up
they-
and crush
they-
the left-handed.
They may do.
Yeah, because there's no way I'm feasting on that.
Fair point, I think. But yeah. So, yes, is there a prevailing theory as to why right-handedness is the most common?
Well, isn't it size of the brain? And I would imagine it's to do with that and how straight the columns are within your brain and whether or not they actually touch the roof of your head.
How many cricket pitches are there in Kansas?
One big one. It's to do with the measurement of corn, isn't it? It's to do with the measurement... It's nothing to do with the measurement of
No,
corn.
you're on exactly the right lines. Americans, how do they measure? Do they use the metric system or do they use a version of our imperial system?
Frickin'
They use
imperial.
yards.
And the length of a cricket pitch, which is
22 yards.
22 yards, and it's called a chain. There are 10 chains to a word that's still
Furlong?
used in sport.
Furlong?
A furlong, brilliant. 4 points, 7 points. 80 chains to a
Mile.
mile, yes. And an acre is 10 square chains. That's where an acre is derived.
Okay.
20 chains by 20 chains, known as 40s, because that would be 40 acres.
I know a thing about the 40.
Oh, yes.
When they had the emancipation of the slaves,
40
they were not
acres
each
and a mule.
entitled to a 40.
Yeah.
That was indeed.
And a mule, which is
Yeah.
why Spike Lee called his company
Yes.
40 Acres and a Mule. That's
Brilliant.
the thing I know about the 40.
7 points again. It's just the 7
is
times
the-
table.
Alan's crushing this episode.
And because Kansas, which is one of the most rectangular shapes of any of the
Very
states, almost
agricultural.
perfectly so, you can actually calculate how many it is, and it's 3,474,386,388 cricket pitches.
Quite different to the answer I had in mind.
Is it? What's the capital of Kansas? Which city is the capital?
Arkansas.
No, that's another state. I need a...
Is it Wichita?
It's
Kansas City.
No, Kansas City's in Missouri. It's so messed up.
It's Topeka, if that's of any help.
Topeka, right.
Kansas?
I've never even heard of Topeka.
Surprisingly, in terms of real cricket pitches, for playing cricket on, there are 7 that we can find in Kansas.
Just 7?
7, which is more than you might expect.
They've got room for more than 3 billion.
Yeah, we know
more.
they've got room for more, but...
wow.
Yeah, but how many football fields are there in Kansas?
Of course, if you talk about that area, I mean, Elvis would be one of the most famous citizens. Now, where was Elvis born? Does anybody know that? Tupelo,
Tupelo,
Mississippi.
yeah.
Of course, then he moved
Nowhere
to
near
Memphis in a
Kansas.
different state,
Yeah.
Tennessee. And that was where he became very, very famous and started off in 1955 with That's All Right Mama. He was with the Sun record label at that point in Memphis. Then he signed
Sorry,
with RCA Victor Records.
This has nothing to do
New
with
York.
Kansas
Now, with them, of
or
course,
cricket.
the Heartbreak Hotel. And Elvis can be heard saying, Sam, this one's for you. And I think Sam, with the greatest respect, Steve, I think it's more my area than yours. It's not something I ever thought I'd get a chance to say.
Is this
I haven't
radio-
said anything for a while.
What? Yeah, it's like Radio 2 in the middle of the night.
He has come out with such bilge. And you sit there like we're in Rain Man, loving it.
And I do love you, Rob, and I want you to know that. I really, really, really do.
Yeah, but don't say it while you're reading
I
something
like...
else. That's
no,
fine.
tell me the oldest international sporting fixture on Earth.
England v Australia at cricket.
No, it is cricket, though.
England-
Canada v.
No,
US.
it's America versus Canada
Yeah.
at cricket. If you want to look into the future, where should you go?
A sci-fi convention.
Right, okay. That's a...
Looking into the
maybe.
future. Looking into the past, you go to a telescope.
You look backwards because history teaches us the future. And as Dr. Phil says, the greatest indicator of future behaviour is past behaviour.
When are you going to realise he's not interested?
Brydon's gonna keep trying.
Unlike when you speak, he's not frightened.
There is a place where physically you can, as it were, look into the future. Of course, you're not literally looking into the
Is
future.
it like by the international date line?
You just look into tomorrow. So you go up to Little Atu and Grand Atu, or whatever they're called, between Alaska and Siberia.
If I stood perfectly on that line,
You drown.
and let's just say, and there's an accident, but to jump over the line and stop yourself from doing it.
No, obviously it can't, literally. At the
So
moment.
you were only a day older, and yet
Yeah.
the world was 2 days older.
Yeah.
So if you did that
Yeah.
every day, you'd live twice the number of days of most humans and would appear, despite only having lived, say, 80
Yeah.
years, to have lived for 160.
But you wouldn't.
What did he achieve? Nothing. He had a lot of airlines.
He's just constantly
Would
on
you
a
struggle
plane.
to hold down the job?
Yes.
Yeah, you
Yes,
would.
you would.
You might be able to do it if you lived on the Diomede Islands. The lesser and the greater Diomede, which are up there at the very top. What's that area of water
Well, it's
called?
the
between
Diomedes,
Russia
not
and
the
Bering-
Atu.
The Bering Strait, exactly. And we can...
If you were stood with your child
Yeah.
and he had a pet rabbit and it died,
Right.
could you jump over that timeline with the rabbit?
What do you think?
I think I'd get a jet ski and stay on the line and go around the world
Right. Yes.
and stay at my perfect weight and this age for the rest of my life, shouting advice and being mistaken for God. So then
The
I'd be
point is,
saying
the
for a
line
bit,
is arbitrary. The line is...
Fill your boots.
We decided to...
We didn't.
Yes, we did. Literally in Britain we did.
Yeah, but we
No, our
didn't.
culture did.
Oh, we're just breaking Johnny this episode.
So a line is straight 'cause it's straight, but I can't be God on a jet ski.
I wouldn't
Today's
be
lesson.
surprised now if my parents came in and had a quiet word with you and asked if Johnny could be taken to another class because they feel Rob isn't learning.
Small Diomede look at big Diomede and watch people get
Yes,
older
there are...
fast.
Are you ready to move on?
Yes.
Good. Where does the extra square in this diagram come from? Those two are the same size, aren't they? And they're all made up of elements that are the same size. You can actually see... Can you see there's a white square there, of bits missing?
Oh, yeah.
How can that be?
Oh, this is easy. It's because the the hypotenuse isn't a straight line. It's slightly bowed.
Goes there, goes there. Whoa, like
It looks like a straight
so,
line because it's...
So,
So now there's more space in there.
yeah. Well, that can't be possible.
Sure it can.
It's the same, isn't it?
Yeah, there it is.
One is concave and
cheap.
one's
That's
convex.
Witchcraft.
Yeah, it is rather. The hypotenuse in the top one and in the bottom one seems to be the same, but they are curved. They're not straight. The eye assumes they're straight, and is puzzled by that gap.
I've seen that one before. That's a cool one.
What's the best place to punch a shark?
In a pub.
It's supposed to be the nose. That's sort of the common wisdom.
In the eye.
But
In the eye is the right answer, yes.
Oh.
Yeah. A lot of people, for some reason, seem to think the nose. There may be
yeah,
the eye or the gill. It so happens that more people in the world are bitten by New Yorkers every year than they are by sharks.
OK, how many New Yorkers a year bite someone's leg off?
But what saddens me is 120 million sharks every year are killed.
So they're fin.
And just for their bloody fins.
But I hate sharks.
Because you find them ugly?
I think they're scary. They're incredibly scary.
The miracle of their teeth, that's extraordinary. They have rows of teeth, and they bite, and then they fall out, and the next one literally comes forward, they've got conveyor belt of rows of teeth going all the way back in there.
More impressive than that, Stephen, is how she's managed to do a lipstick underwater.
Now your talk of razor-sharp teeth on a conveyor belt's making them sound quite sweet.
How many legs does an octopus have?
none.
Oh, I mean,
They're all tentacles.
Depending on the breed.
2 legs is the right answer.
2 legs and the rest are tentacles? Or are they arms? It's nomenclature.
They use 2 of their tentacles for kind of ambulatory gait, as you can see behind there, and the other 4 they use for holding food and so
The
on.
other
So
4, how about the other 6?
how much of the moon can you see from the Earth?
Half, but marginally less than half.
There is this strange thing called libration.
What does it mean?
Well, I was about to tell you, and then somebody came and said...
Some Welshman interrupted.
No, I'll tell you. You get this kind of jiggling effect. Basically, what it comes down to is you can see about 59%.
Okay.
At one time.
My word, it's absolutely fascinating.
No doubt.
It couldn't be fascinating. We have a tie, would you believe it, for 3rd place. Rob and Johnny on +2.
How? Just to make Johnny stop rambling?
With 4 points is David Mitchell. I've got a feeling this is divisible by 7, and it's 21 points for Alan Davis.
21, man. A little bit arbitrary with the 7 every time, but yeah, he was crushing it.
Good night.
I've really liked Johnny in the past, but man, he was tough to like this episode. I just feel like I don't know what Johnny's history with alcohol and or drugs may be. I'm just speculating, but it feels like this may be a time in his history where he may have been dealing with some of those challenges, because I just feel like he was all over the place, and I get that some of that's just how he is, and that's his act, so to speak. But I feel like he was particularly off the rails this episode, and it just kind of detracted from what was an actually really interesting episode. It was still entertaining, don't get me wrong, but I just feel like there was 20% too much Johnny in there, and as much as I felt for Brydon, even though I'm not normally sympathetic to Brydon either. I get what Brydon was saying, where it just felt like Stephen was letting Johnny just go off because sometimes you can't stop a runaway train. But yeah, man, I feel quite proud that I knew that shifting geometry triangle trick. I don't know where I've seen that one before, but I have come across that before. And yeah, the eye just plays tricks with you. that hypotenuse is not a straight line. One it's slightly convex, one it's slightly concave, and the difference between those two shapes equals one square. Really cool. I've always been a math nerd. Geometry was always one of my favorites because for me it was just so simple to visualize. It all just made sense to me. But I've also always loved maps. And I love geometry applied to maps. I've always loved, the thought process but behind stuff like time zones and the international date line and stuff. And I was intrigued when they just sort of put up that graphic in the background about the evolution of the international date line, how it went from a straight line to these shifting shapes as nations were moved from one side to the other and whatnot. And I'd love to learn more about that. I always find after an episode of QI that my interest has been piqued in one particularly random corner of trivia, and I often end up doing a bit of a dive on the internet to learn more about something random like the evolution of the international date line. I get that. I recently did an episode of QI with, I forget who the third guest was, but it was Sean Locke and Brydon again, and the third guest was Ben Miller. That's who it was. And Ben Miller's a very smart man, and he was involved with the Large Hadron Collider at CERN and all of this, and he was giving some pretty scientific explanations to some pretty complex thoughts. And Brydon and Locke were playing up their confusion. I don't mind if guests are confused when we get into really tough topics, but I feel like guests playing dumb on this show detracts from the show a little bit. And I feel like that's what Johnny was doing this episode, especially with the international dateline stuff. He was fishing for a joke, and I don't think he ever really found it, but he was just playing a step too obtuse. And I kind of felt like David Mitchell. David was just sort of giving these looks like, seriously? Johnny's got sort of this everyman persona, but I don't think his act is that he's a moron. But he was kind of coming off like one in an effort to find the comedy, and I don't think he ultimately found the joke either. I mean, he was going on about jet skiing and being God and staying frozen in time, and it's just like, I don't think anyone really thinks that that's how crossing the international date line or being on the international date line actually works. But in any case, interesting. I did learn another interesting thing. I didn't know that moron literally meant blunt in Greek. And I didn't know that oxy meant sharp. And therefore that's why oxymoron is an oxymoron in and of itself. That's really actually super cool. I did not know that, and now I do, and thank you for teaching me. And that's what I love about this show, is I learn new things every episode. And it's a show that celebrates knowledge and information and inquisitiveness and curiosity, which is perhaps why I get my feathers up when somebody plays dumb on the show. One of the things I really admire about British culture that is much more lacking here in North America is there is still a celebration of intelligence, and it remains a much bigger part of British culture than it does here. Like quiz culture, I think, is a lot bigger in the UK. More of your game shows celebrate that. Sure, there's still comedy involved, but there's genuine intelligence, and that just doesn't happen as much here. And I hate seeing. I like it being celebrated. I like that you celebrate it so much. So when it's mocked or disparaged, I get defensive for it. I know, I should just let it go. I should let it go. I wanted more David Mitchell in this episode, frankly. I think that's part of why I'm a little choked. You know, like David's so good on this show. We did get a great rant from him, but it was right at the very beginning, the whole horizontal versus vertical stripes. One of the things I love so much about his angry logic is it remains logical. It isn't just ranting and raving. It's really well thought out. He just happens to be really upset by it, frustrated by it. And I mean, I feel like that was his one moment on this episode. There wasn't much more because Johnny just kind of dominated. Anyhow, I'm still glad I saw it. There were some really good bits in there. I remembered my Doric, Ionic, and Corinthian, which, like, it's just one of those random bits of schoolboy knowledge that you learn. Never really matters unless you become like an art historian or an architect. And yet, it's one of these things that every kid has to learn. Do you still have to learn it now in school? I don't know. But when in the 80s, you certainly did. I remember that clear as day. I couldn't even tell you what class. I suppose it was what we call social studies. But yeah, man, weird stuff just sticks in your brain, right? Thank you guys so much for recommending this one. Can't wait for another new episode next week. For those of you who ask me about checking out Series T, I have a few episodes that I want to check out that have been recommended to me but the challenge is finding them on YouTube. YouTube, the owners of the QI copyright seem to be cracking down on the most recent seasons of QI on YouTube. So finding full episodes to react to has become a bit of a challenge, but I'm keeping my eye out. I will react to them when I can find them. And yeah, until then, I'll continue working through the back catalog. But thank you guys so much for hanging out for a little bit here today. Can't wait to do another one next week. And until then, take care, stay healthy. We'll see you soon. Cheers.